Hollywood isn't just uncomfortable right now, it's rattled, because something just slipped through the cracks that was never supposed to be seen. And when Mel Gibson's old warnings suddenly lined up with what leaked, the panic became impossible to hide. Over the past few days, the internet has been flooded with chaos. First, that Diddy documentary cracked open an entire inner circle people weren't ready to talk about. Then the Epstein files finally dropped. The ones everyone was told would be locked down, blacked out, and safe from scrutiny. Except they weren't, because online researchers discovered something nobody expected. Those blacked out sections, they weren't truly hidden. You could copy the text, paste it somewhere else, and read what was underneath. Just like that, the censorship failed. And once people realized it, the information spread faster than anyone could stop it. Names, connections, patterns, and suddenly, a warning Mel Gibson gave decades ago didn't sound dramatic anymore. It sounded precise. Because Mel wasn't reacting to rumors. He was reacting to a system he saw from the inside. Years before Epstein became a household name, Mel described Hollywood as a place that looks welcoming, until it starts changing you. He said when you first arrive, you're fresh, untouched, still carrying the dirt from wherever you came from. And people love that about you. They flatter you, they praise you, they make you feel chosen. But while they're lifting you up, they're also testing you, slowly reshaping what you tolerate, what you ignore, what you excuse. Mel said it doesn't matter how strong your beliefs are. This place applies pressure nonstop. And if you stay long enough, it diverts you, whether you notice it happening or not. That's the part that stuck with him. Because when Mel arrived in his mid-20s, things didn't make sense. People behaved strangely. Conversations stopped when he walked in. Certain topics were off limits, and nobody explained why. At first, he thought he was imagining it, thought he was being paranoid, told himself an entire industry couldn't possibly operate that way. But years later, he realized something unsettling. Some of his worst suspicions weren't wrong. They were. And that's when he described Hollywood the way people describe haunted towns in horror movies. The kind where everyone knows something you don't, and nobody wants to be the one who tells you. Eventually, Mel hit a breaking point. He said the industry started to feel less like opportunity, and more like sacrifice. So he left. He walked away from Hollywood completely. Bought land in Australia, did farm work, built fences, helped cattle give birth. Normal life. Not because he hated success, but because he needed distance from whatever was operating behind the scenes. And when he came back, something changed. He stopped playing along. And once that happened, the industry's attitude toward him shifted too. Now fast forward to the Epstein files, because this is where the pieces start locking into place. The newly released documents don't just repeat what people already knew, they deepen it. They show how embedded Epstein was across power structures, not just one group. Photos place major political figures around him repeatedly. Testimony describes comments that were never meant to reach daylight. Records contradict years of public denial. And it wasn't limited to politics. Musicians, actors, industry elites, not accused, but present, close enough to matter. And when certain files quietly disappeared shortly after being uploaded, the message was loud without saying a word. This wasn't transparency, it was damage control. Which brings us back to Mel Gibson, and the line he refused to cross. Because when Mel spoke about trafficking, especially involving kids, he didn't hedge. He didn't soften it. He said awareness was the first step, and silence was part of the problem. That's why he supported Sound of Freedom, a movie that should have been an easy win. Clear message, important subject, publicly acceptable cause. Yet somehow, every major platform backed away. Netflix passed, Hulu passed, Amazon passed, even Disney, who owned the film, quietly dropped it. No explanation that made sense. No enthusiasm, just avoidance. And that silence spoke volumes. Because Hollywood loves promoting causes, as long as they don't threaten the people funding the system. Once you understand that, what Joe Rogan and Cat Williams talked about hits harder. They described Hollywood's success not as talent alone, but compliance. Not belief, but participation. Rogan explained how certain narratives get funding, distribution, and protection, while others hit invisible walls. Cat Williams went further. He said rituals aren't about symbolism, they're about results. If doing the thing leads to success, people repeat it, and patterns don't lie. Those who submit move forward. Those who resist stall out. Not instantly, not obviously, but consistently. Which brings us to the most disturbing pattern of all, one involving kids. Corey Feldman has been warning about this for years, long before it was acceptable to listen. He said predators were everywhere, hiding behind contracts, fame, and power. So common that kids didn't even realize what was happening to them was wrong. That's how grooming works. It normalizes the unthinkable. Feldman said the trauma didn't just disappear when the cameras shut off. It followed people for life. In some cases, it ended lives early. And when he hinted that a powerful figure was responsible for what happened to his closest friend, he made one thing clear: Naming names comes with consequences. Legal ones, career-ending ones, worse. Yet one confirmed case later proved he wasn't lying, which is why the timing of everything happening now matters. Mel warned people in the 90s. Feldman spoke out in the 2000s. Cat Williams said 2024 would be the year masks started slipping. And now, in 2025, files meant to stay buried are suddenly readable. That's not coincidence. That's pressure reaching a breaking point. Hollywood isn't afraid of rumors. It's afraid of patterns. Because once people see the pattern, the illusion collapses. And the question isn't whether more comes out. It's who's still standing when it does. Because once the toothpaste is out of the tube, there's no putting it back. If you thought the Epstein files were the end of it, think again. Because what leaked wasn't the whole story. It was the trigger. Behind the scenes, something far bigger started moving. And this is the part Hollywood really didn't want people connecting. Because when you line up the sudden document removals, the media silence, and the people who immediately went quiet, a pattern emerges that's hard to ignore. Let's start with what happened after the files dropped. Within hours, certain pages were gone. Not corrected, not clarified, gone. No explanation, no press conference, just quiet removal. That's not how transparency works. That's how panic looks when it's trying to stay invisible. And while officials insisted nothing new was revealed, insiders started acting differently. Lawyers got busy, PR teams went silent, entire media outlets suddenly lost interest. That's when people started asking a dangerous question. If Epstein was just one man, why does exposing his network shake so many unrelated industries at once? Because Epstein wasn't the center. He was the connector. He sat at the intersection of politics, finance, intelligence, and entertainment. Not as a boss, but as leverage. And once you understand that, Mel Gibson's behavior over the years makes a lot more sense. Mel didn't just criticize Hollywood culture. He rejected its control. He refused funding from certain groups. He financed his own films. He kept projects outside the studio system. And every time he did, the backlash followed. Negative press cycles, selective outrage, sudden controversies, resurfacing at convenient times. Not to cancel him outright, but to keep him contained. Because that's how the system works. It doesn't destroy everyone. It isolates the ones who won't comply. Now let's talk about something that quietly disappeared from mainstream discussion. Why do so many celebrities connected to Epstein also have unusually protected reputations? No follow-ups, no deep dives, no sustained investigations. The media treats it like a third rail. Mention Epstein, but don't trace the lines outward. Because if you do, you don't just hit individuals, you hit institutions. And institutions don't panic unless they're exposed. This is where Denzel Washington's old comments start resurfacing too. He warned about fame without integrity, about success that comes with a price tag you don't see up front. He said not everyone pays the same price, but everyone is tested. Sound familiar? Because Corey Feldman said the same thing. So did Cat Williams. So did others who quietly stepped away instead of climbing higher. Those who stayed and played the game kept rising. Those who didn't, they stalled, they vanished, or they were labeled difficult. And now, with the Epstein connections back in the spotlight, something else feels off. Have you noticed how certain documentaries get massive promotion, while others are buried? How some exposés are praised as brave journalism, while others are dismissed as dangerous speculation? That's not about accuracy. That's about permission. Because real power doesn't argue with truth. It controls distribution. Which brings us to the most chilling detail people overlooked. Epstein didn't operate alone, and he didn't operate randomly. His protection lasted across administrations, across parties, across industry. That doesn't happen by accident. That happens when too many powerful people benefit from silence. And once that silence breaks, the fallout doesn't come all at once. It comes in waves. First, disbelief, then mockery, then denial, then distraction. We're somewhere between denial and distraction right now. But here's what changed. The internet doesn't forget anymore, and it doesn't wait for permission. Files get archived, videos get mirrored, receipts spread faster than damage control. And that's why Hollywood isn't arguing back. It's stalling. Because the longer this drags on, the more people start asking the one question nobody wants answered. How many careers were built on looking the other way? How many success stories required silence? And how many people knew, but stayed quiet because the system rewarded them for it? Mel Gibson once said the scariest part wasn't discovering the darkness. It was realizing how normal it was treated. And that's the real warning. Not that evil exists, but that it hides in routine, contracts, and applause. So the question now isn't whether more names will surface. It's whether the structure that protected them can survive exposure. Because once people stop idolizing the image, they start questioning the machine. And when that happens, control slips. This isn't the end of the story. It's the part where everything accelerates. Because the truth doesn't need everyone to believe it. It just needs enough people to notice the pattern. And once they do, there's no going back.